This is English Shorthand Dictation number 92 and the dictation speed is 160 words per minute. Ready? Start. Sir, I have only to submit that for those who are employed at present in the government offices of different provinces, it is desirable that they should be residents of that province so far as possible. I think to establish self-government in the true sense of the word, it is most essential that in any part of the world, only the residents of that part should be government servants and officials. If there are open chances for the residents of one province to serve in another, it means that the residents of that province shall not be able to enjoy self-government. My real intention is that so far as possible, the administration of a province should be run by officers and employees who are residents of that province. This province and the unit in which the staff is required should employ mostly the descendants of the residents of that place. According to the form to which this rule is being framed, there is no consideration of the domicile of the candidate or his place of birth. There shall be freedom to serve anywhere. This may create troubles that in order to secure service that the residents of one province will compete with the residents of another. By this, the self-sufficiency of an autonomous unit will be destroyed. Nowadays, there are restrictions of domicile and residence in all provinces. In our UP, in every advertisement of the Public Service Commission, a condition is laid down that only those who are domiciled in UP, Rampur, Benares or Tihari can apply for the posts. If this condition is waived and no preference is given to birthplace, then there may be a danger that people of other parts of the province may compete and capture subordinate and higher posts. This will go against the real spirit of Swaraj. Perhaps the clause as moved by Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel may provide that the provincial governments can give preference to their residents. If this is so, I will not move any amendment, but I would request Sardar Patel to put it on record in today's proceedings that there shall be no restrictions in giving preference to place of birth for recruitment to government service. It would mean that provincial governments will be able to give preference to their residents over others. If in the proceedings of this House it is recorded that the right of allowing privileges to its domiciles will vest in every province, and in matters of employment it shall be able to allow privileges to its residents over those of other provinces, then I need not move any amendment. I hope that this will be possible. I shall not have to move any amendment if the mover or any other member of this committee admits that the freedom of the provinces in running their administration through their residents is maintained so far as possible. My esteemed colleague has some doubts about the Afghan princes who have been deported from Afghanistan, and he wants to know whether they and their children will be eligible for office. I do not know that this is going to create any difficulty for us. If the children of the Afghan princes propose to stay here, it is quite possible they will get themselves naturalized if they have been deported from their country. After all, the clause makes provision for eligibility, but it does not restrict the right of provinces to impose restrictions by legislation on the question of employment. It only says that no citizen can be declared ineligible for office on the ground of race, religion, sex, descent, etc. Therefore, there is no reason to have any apprehension on that count. One of the members raised a similar point that preference should be given to the residents of the province and provinces should have opportunity to give preference by legislation to the residents of the provinces. This does not deprive the province of its rights to legislate. This simply removes ineligibility of a citizen. That should be so, and therefore it is provided in the fundamental rights. So on that score also there is no difficulty. Sir, my object in moving this amendment is that India is an agricultural country where we have many petty proprietors who are commonly known as zamindars. Their number is very large and larger still in Punjab. In our Punjab, restrictions of this sort exist even now. It appears from para 5 that these restrictions may be excluded from the operation of law in future. Therefore, my object in moving this amendment is to give such powers to the units, which in the interest of agriculture will enable them to protect the petty zamindars from the big landlords, capitalists and wealthy people who do not cultivate the land themselves. In my opinion, such restrictions are very essential for the benefit of the whole country. I hope that such powers will be given to the units which will enable them to protect their cultivators. Secondly, I want to point out that the petty zamindars who inhabit our area belong particularly to martial classes and are in the army in large numbers even now. I think that if they do not possess these lands, they will be reduced to the status of mere peasants. The spirit of self-respect is inherent in them. They can fight with courage, and the name which they have earned, they will not be able to earn in future. I would like to point out to you that you may issue statements, publish messages in papers, and deliver speeches, but this is the age of the sword. Only that man will rule who has power in his hands. Therefore, it is necessary that the children of those who are in the army should be treated well and should not be allowed to grow weak, because their services shall be required. Their support will be needed to enforce the constitution which is being framed for the future. Therefore, I submit that such restrictions should be imposed which will debar wealthy people from acquiring the lands of the weak. I appeal to Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel because he is a well-wisher of the zamindars. I hope that he will keep this in view and add some provision in the constitution in order to protect them from the operations of the existing laws. Once the peasantry is destroyed, it cannot be recouped. As an English poet has said, once a peasant is destroyed, it is very difficult to rehabilitate him. With these words, I move this amendment. Mr. President, I stand to oppose the amendment moved by my honorable friend Shri Suraj Mal. There is a black law in Punjab which is known as Land Alienation Act. The purpose of this amendment is to preserve this law. It is highly detrimental to our depressed and other non-agricultural classes. It has allowed those who go under the name of zamindars or label themselves as peasants to permanently enslave a large section of people in Punjab. If this amendment is accepted, it would mean that those communities which have been forced to live under the tyranny of zamindars for centuries and which by the help of the black law of Land Alienation Act have been kept in the clutches of the zamindars will not be able to recover for centuries. Hence, in this age when we are formulating such a law that all should be provided with the same facilities and opportunities and everyone should have equal rights, it is not proper that this black law should be maintained. Hence, on behalf of the depressed classes, I oppose this amendment in strong words and appeal to the House that this amendment should not be accepted in any form, for this amendment will amount to injustice and tyranny for the depressed and other non-agricultural classes. If you now adopt this amendment, it means that you would be perpetuating that tyranny which we are present here to end. I oppose the amendment with these words. Mr. Surajmal has raised a point in which he is afraid that persons having agricultural holdings may be affected. He has in his mind that the Punjab Land Alienation Act, which is working, gives some protection to these persons and he thinks they will be deprived of their protection. Now, in this connection, I can only suggest for his satisfaction that there is an amendment to this clause which I proposed to accept as I have explained in the beginning. This clause, so far as it concerns the acquiring, holding or disposing of property, is removed from there and is going to be taken over to another clause, that is clause 8. But in that clause also, the provision has been made that this can be done only on the grounds of public interest. Therefore, in this clause, even if the principle is there, it is to be restricted. In the other clause, the principle is discussed, and as the principle is restricted only to cases of public interest, I think there is no difficulty, and his difficulty is also removed. We have discussed this at length in the committee, and there was difference of opinion in the various committees in which this question was discussed and adopted. It was a very controversial matter. I do not know if there will be any objection or any prolonged controversy over this matter.